23, a large number of people thought he just turned himself. We for yourselves, for your children. But the final compliment will say, the ones that you love, but never yours. Then they will say to the mountains, fall.
Hey, good morning, everyone. For our new members, I want to say welcome aboard. Welcome to our local family, and there's a lot of work to do, so we're anxious to have extra hands. And it'll work soon, I'm sure. You know, talking about going to Wyoming, I may see if I can tag along. That's something that you have to have kids. Well, if I do, I'm probably going to go try to hike, at least try to enjoy it while I'm out there. I think that would be great. Every time I go out on a hike, though, my wife is worried that something bad is going to happen. So I thought about that when I was at a store in Brevard, in South Carolina. I saw a shirt that reminded me of it's this famous saying everybody always says, well, you know, whatever doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. But then it added at the end of that, it said, except for bears will kill you. My wife is always telling me, you know, I would go out on my own when we go down to the Smokies, just to get away. Because we were down there, we had like 17 people in the cabin, you know, and oh my, that's too much for me. So I have to go off and I have to go on. I went into the park to hike and she said, okay, come on. First of all, I'm too skinny, no bears go along. And to get to the age where maybe there's too much birds for something a little bit rapid. But I hope to maybe tag along on that. I know it's a few years in the future, so we'll see how. That is fantastic. It's nice to have a change, right? I mean, everybody enjoyed going out to Oshkosh. Beautiful. I heard a lot of nice things about the program and everything, but it's nice to get a change. To be able to go somewhere else in Wyoming, I think is fantastic. And maybe it will might be a good. Yeah, there's Yellowstone too, so that's pretty wonderful. We'll see. So hopefully, I mean, it's nice to have change, and everything is changing. It seems to me that the things that I really enjoy are going away. It's amazing, and there's a lot of change that's going on. In 2020, it was September, the World Wildlife Federation gave a very startling statistic about some change that's going on. They showed that the worldwide population of wildlife has decreased by 68% within the last 40 years. 68% worldwide population. That is staggering. You know, those are animals and that we may enjoy, you know, getting to see and getting to experience. It's nothing that we want to get rid of, like mosquitoes and ticks and chiggers. I mean, you know, I would rejoice if I saw some statistic that said the worldwide population of mosquitoes, ticks, and chiggers was decreased by 68%. Right? But instead, it's the worldwide population that is decreased by that. And they attribute it to a certain number of things, most likely. I mean, mostly what they characterize these as are man's intervention. We're destroying habitat, particularly in Central and South America. A lot of the land has been cleared and being used for agriculture. factor, and that's taking away from habitat. We see a lot of that here, even in the United States. We're taking away from the animals' habitat and trying to figure out where they can live. I live in a housing addition, and granted, right behind my house is a kind of a wildlife area. It's probably about maybe 8 or 10 acres. It's not really big, but there's a creek that goes through there, and there's some trees that were down, and so we have all kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, we even see coyotes. I had coyotes right outside my window, my bedroom window one night. Coyotes were there. We had deer that were walking in the backyard. You know, it's nothing to walk outside and see a deer. Bobcats. We even have bobcats just right around in our area. They're being pushed from the natural habitat and trying to find places that they can live. We have just about wiped out these natural places for wildlife. And then there are other things that man-made interventions. Overfishing is pretty much happening across the entire globe. We just about drain our oceans of the resources that they provide. And then finally, there is the big topic that a lot of people focus on, and that is climate change. There's a lot of debate about it. My personal belief is that yes, we're seeing this, we're seeing effects, and those effects aren't good, right? Jesus talked about a type of climate change. It's in the verse that Bob shared with us here. We're going to go back to that, Luke chapter 23. We stopped just at one short verse, Bob. That's the key verse that we want to focus on. But we'll read through it again. Here we see Jesus on his way to the crucifixion. And while he is on his way, this happens. It says in verse 27, and they were following him, the great multitude of the people and of women who were mourning and lamenting him. But Jesus turned to them and said, Daughters of Jerusalem, stop weeping for me, but weep for yourselves, for the children. For behold, the days are coming when they will say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breast that never nursed. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, Fall, and the hills cover us. For if they do these things in the green tree, what will happen in the drought? I was reading this during my devotions, my studies one morning, and I've read through this many times. I don't know how many times you've read through this, but for some reason, that last verse just really struck me. It kept echoing in my mind over and over and over. For if they do these things in the green tree, what will happen in the drought? You know, Jesus was on his way, weakened after being brutally beaten, carrying the cross for as long as he possibly could, on his way to be cruelly killed. And yet he stopped to say these words. There's something very important about the message that he was trying to get across to these people in his last little sermon, if you will, before the crucifixion. And those last words are really powerful. If they do these things in the green tree, what will they do in the drought? And so he's talking about, one of the things he's talking about is what is about to come on the people in Jerusalem. About 33 years after his death in AD 66, there was a massive revolt across all of Judea, across all of and there was a revolt against the Romans. I mean, it was actually pretty successful. But then the Romans came back and eventually started putting things down, just one city to another, just slowly working their way down from the north until they got to Jerusalem. And when they finally got there in AD 70 and laid siege to it, it was a very bad thing. See, being subject to the siege, all kinds of things that can happen will happen. In 2 Kings chapter 6, there's a story of a siege of a city in Samaria. And while they were there, well, we'll read it. 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 25. says there was a great famine in Samaria. And behold, they besieged it, they being this foreign country, until a donkey's head was sold for 80 shekels of silver, and a fourth of a calf of dove's dung for 5 shekels of silver. See what happens to you when you're in a siege and food runs out? Donkeys and dove's dung were not on the list of things that they should be eating, or that they resort to anything in order to survive. And eventually it got worse. They fulfilled the prophecy that Moses had made in Deuteronomy 28:53. Says, then you shall eat the offspring of your own body, your sons and of your daughters, whom the Lord your God has given you during the siege and distress which your enemy will bring. We see that fulfilled in 2 Kings 6, verses 28 and 29. They ate their own children. When it finally comes down to it, you look and say, okay, if people behave a certain way, what's it going to be like when things get really? Jesus is warning that if God's chosen people would go so far as to condemn an innocent man, I wonder what they're going to be like once the siege happens. Now, I don't have any records. I've done some research trying to find out any accounts inside the city, but it must have been pretty bad. There were 2 factions within the city, each fighting against each other, even bloody struggles against each other. They're fighting each other. The Romans are outside. One faction decides, well, they're going to do something to really motivate the people to resist. So guess what they did? Smart move. They destroyed the food store. So why would you destroy the food when you're getting ready to be under the siege? And so imagine with the food go on, maybe something happened in Samaria. Starting to turn to other sources of food, doing anything they can to survive. If they do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it's dry? You know, we see the same thing, I think, happening in our society today. You know, I see just common courtesy and decency and just nice. Those things are on the decline, pretty rapid. But all I see on the increase is this anger and selfishness and narcissism and is on the increase. And I think to myself, there's really not a lot of reason for that. I mean, everything is actually really good right now. The economy's okay. I mean, there's some things that could be better, but we're actually pretty good. There's no reason for it. The first keeps ringing in my head. If people do this in the green tree, what will they do in the grass? And part of me starts to sympathize, or at least not sympathize, at least be able to understand why some of my friends they have bunkers. Okay, I don't know if you know that. One of my good friends has a bunker. And along with that bunker comes fully automatic weapons that he has, ammunition and food and all kinds of things. And I'm starting to think, I can understand that. Because if they behave this way when the tree is green, what will they do? But I really don't think that becoming like everybody else is the answer to the solution, is the answer to the problem. It's not the solution. Becoming just as bad as everybody else and struggling for survival is not what is going to see us through. What's going to see us through is being able to rely. If people behave now, we know that there's a kind of trouble that he'll see us through. We were talking about that amongst ourselves. What should we do to prepare? What should we be thinking about? And so I started reading some, and I believe the book is called Last Day Events or something. And so I was going to try to get to a reference. I didn't, but I can if you want me to. And so while all of this talk was going on, I thought, I remember somewhere, reading somewhere where Ellen White said, God will even in some instances bring back man. Won't that be great? I mean, the very food that he used to provide for the Israelites when they were wandering in the desert, I shared that over here. So there's a witness, it's in there. So, can you imagine what it would be like to wake up some morning, maybe when you're hungry and you're thinking, where's my next meal going to be coming from? And there's manna. Praise the Lord. That's something to look forward to. Instead of dreading it, maybe that's something to look forward to. So he'll take care of it. And so this quote, I was thinking about it too, made me think about God's church. And I look around and I think in ways that I have fallen short, and I think, Mike, if you behave this way in the green tree, what would you do in the dry? I mean, we have freedom of worship. We can worship as we want. There's some persecution, right? But nobody's maybe not it's not within this country. We're going to have people going to jail. There's not the kind of thing happening that we expect when the time of trouble comes, right? So if I behave this way in the green tree, why do I be like when the real test comes? You know, we have, there was one time that I was talking to somebody, and they did not know that I know this person. It's a person that is in another church, another one of our churches, in a different family. And this person was talking to me about this particular dog. And they didn't have very flattering things to say. As a matter of fact, they used the word scoundrel. So he's a scoundrel. Now, scoundrel is a dishonest, unscrupulous person. That's a pretty strong word for somebody to use as like, and I thought about it. This guy is a respected, faithful church member, not just a member, but an elder. And scoundrel? I mean, maybe they were wrong, but do their actions while the tree is green, is that what will happen when it's gone? I see the same kind of thing and think about actions and how I relate to the Sabbath. The reason I talk about the importance of the Sabbath every time I stand up to speak, when I welcome you to this church on this blessed day, I emphasize the importance of the Sabbath, the sanctity, the sacredness, the fact that where we are on in this time and place is sacred and holy. It should be something that we hold very dear. If we don't follow the example of our Lord and Savior and how to keep the Sabbath and honor it, then what's going to happen when I have to make a decision? And it's not like it just builds up. You will have to make a decision. Okay. Everything goes, you lose everything for the faithfulness to the Sabbath, even in your life. Or you turn it back. And it's going to come at a point, I mean, just like a knife's edge, just at one moment in time, you have to make a decision right there. What are you going to do? And if you don't hold that dear when the tree is green, right there at that time when the tree is dry, when the dry time comes, what will you do? The key to being ready for that is to exercise your faith. I have this saying that I keep saying to myself over and over and over again, and maybe actually put it to somebody else. But every day, I say, every day is a test of faith. And we think about times when it's rough, you know, we always talk to people. I've seen some of you brothers and sisters are persons of great faith. I have seen you go through some things that would cause honestly, and yet your faith is strong and you hold on. That's quite honestly, I'll tell you, it's very inspiring. And so we think about we need to have faith when we go through those times of trouble, but we need to really have faith to develop that faith while the tree is green. While things are going well, while we have this respite, if you will, great trouble comes on. You know, I think a lot about what's going to happen when we aren't allowed to eat and everything. So I have really intentionally in my prayer before I will eat and tell God thank you for the food because He's making my bread and my water sure right now. The tree is green, and while I have that, it gives me the faith and assurance that even though things may go wrong in the future, guess who's going to make my bread and my water sure because He has sent me to do so. Exercise that faith in the little things while the times are good, and we'll be ready once we come to that point where we have to rely on nothing else. You know, I think maybe when you look at things, we talk about the importance of exercising your faith in the bad times. I think it may be more important to exercise your faith in the good times. And there can be priceless to this exercise of faith and things in ways that you may not even think about. I told you a little bit about how I have this, there's not like this 8 or 10 acres of a wildlife area. My happy place is to sit out on my back patio. And in the morning, the air is just alive with songbirds. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, I'm learning to pick out. You can listen to that, and it's just amazing. You see the activity and things flying around, you know. I'm thankful for all of that. And I will, in the evening, especially maybe it's a little late for this, in the evening, in the summertime, when you walk out on the back patio and it's dark, the fireflies in that field are just amazing. It's like a continual fire. As a matter of fact, 4th of July, my granddaughter was staying with us, and one of my granddaughters, and she and my wife woke up in the evening because they heard some fireworks, and they wanted to see the fireworks. Okay. But by the time they got over to the window and everything, the fireworks were done. But my granddaughter looked at and guess what she saw? The field of fireflies were just going off, and she thought it was no fireworks. Isn't that amazing? Fireflies, it's just beautiful. I think we all read recently that fireflies are actually endangered. Okay? Their numbers are decreasing. This year I haven't really seen as many as I have in the past. They're decreasing. Honeybees are they're decreasing. And you know, I thought about that when I got blackberries. Guess who loves blackberries? That's me. Great chiggers and tips, whatever to get it. And so I was really excited and went back to look at the progress of these things that were loaded with blooms at the beginning of the year. They're not all really nice berries on. You know what? You see any honeybees around them at all. There's important. These are going away. What's that going to be? Well, think about the impact on our food supply. So, and then, just recently, songbirds are dying. They can't explain why. They have no idea what's going on. Oh, really? Fireflies, honeybees, and their songbirds? Because they're at home, there's not going to be anything left. They're going to be stuck with their chiggers and ticks and mosquitoes and scavengers. You know what? That's all that's going to be left. And I was so depressed. I mean, I moped around for a long time, and I would sit out on the back porch, and I would be thinking, do I hear as many songbirds today as I did yesterday? Are they flew away? What am I going to do with my happy? It's just really depressing. I got very sad. And then I started thinking, maybe there won't be any songbirds. Maybe there won't be any hummingbirds. Maybe there won't be any swallows. Maybe there won't be any honeybees. Maybe there won't be any lightning at the end of the world. When we come right to the point to where the time is coming where Jesus is really close, maybe there won't be any of that stuff. Maybe we actually will be stuck with cockroaches, cheers, mosquitoes, all these things that we don't like and scatter. Maybe God is allowing these things to be withdrawn so that we will not be longing or miss these things. You know what I'm saying? So that it's something that even though we may enjoy it for God, we do it for temporary, and we long for that new home that He promised. Maybe that's what He's doing. Maybe that's what's happening. So I started to think about it, and I saw instead of just this terribly depressing thing, I saw the act of a loving Father who is allowing something to happen so that my heart will be set on this beautiful kingdom and not on the things of this world. 1 John 2:15 says, do not love the world or the things in this world. And I've told you before, it's possible everything for our salvation. Maybe He's allowing these things to be pulled out of the world so we see the ugliness of sin and we long for His coming, and He is the one that will help us not to love the things of this world. Maybe. I think on the side, the other thing that dawned on me, well, if we don't have a food supply because of the honeybees or dying or whatever, it has an impact on our food supply. That sounds like something that might happen all the time, right? Maybe it is. And if there are just scavengers left, Revelation chapter 19, where it talks about the birds of the air coming to feast on the flesh of those who were slain at the coming of Christ. Maybe the only thing left will be scavengers. I don't know. Just one. One thing I do know about is that there is a change in the climate. And I'm not talking about the environment. I'm talking about this climate, this spiritual climate of sin and the increase, this climate of almost hopelessness in some way. But God has an answer for it. He's coming soon. And I think that it's going to happen very quickly. I believe that major catastrophic events in the environment and the economy will happen so fast that it will overwhelm those who inhabit the earth. And it can overwhelm God's people too. If we haven't built up our faith and been transformed by the Holy Spirit and turned into persons who closely resemble Jesus, we have to take advantage of the times in the grave period. And once it comes to that test of faith in the drive, we will wait. And He's coming very quickly. And it's something that we should be happy about. We should continue to develop this faith, and we should not look at the things of the world. The climate is changing, brothers and sisters, but guess what? Even though it may change rapidly for the bad, there's going to come a point where it changes dramatically. Praise the Lord for the good. To be able to experience that. Brothers and sisters, now is the time of the grain tree. I encourage all of us to continue to draw closer to our Lord and Savior because soon the bride is coming. Let's all stand and sing a song about His coming soon. Number 213, Jesus is coming again.